Hey everyone! In today's video I'll be trying my hand at Valkyrie's braided ponytail from the new Thor Ragnarok film. I really loved how simple her look was because even though it wasn't as complicated as, let's say, some of the upstyles worn by the actresses on Vikings, it was still super effective and cool. Anyway, I started off on clean blown out hair, and the only real divided section in the whole thing is a rectangular shaped panel at the top of the head. So I began by creating a headband section that extended from ear to ear and ran across the very top of my crown. I clipped the bottom half away so that I could have a good look at my lines. You need this to be straight since it'll be the back end of the panel. Next, I used the outside of my eyebrows as a guide and I drew my fingers backwards to form the rough outline of my panel. When I had the basic shape, I went in with my comb to straighten out the partings. The loose stuff along the sides of my face were combined into the lower portion of hair and clipped away again. Normally I work from the bottom up, but in this instance I decided to start at the top. I'm going in with my micro crimper and texturizing the entire section. Obviously this is an optional step, but when I was thinking about how I wanted to do this, I thought it might be fun to experiment with different kinds of patterns within my hair before doing any of the styling itself. If you don't have or like using a tool like this, I bet you could substitute with various sized rag curls or braid waves instead. When my initial section was all done, I clipped it up so that I could begin working on the lower half. I'm still using the same iron, but I'm also working with a thin tapered wand in between the crimping. I found that by rotating between hot tools every other section, I was able to build a somewhat strange, yet appropriately eccentric looking texture. While my hair is getting longer, it's still super fine, so by using these implements, I was also able to thicken it up a little. As I said before, I think the focus here is a lot more on the actual styling of the hair itself, and it was fun to see the contrast between crimped hair and tight spiral curls. Now I thought about doing this without hair extensions, but I decided it couldn't hurt to use a few. After all, who doesn't like a little bit of additional volume? They aren't necessary for this look, but since I had them, why not? I put in one 2-clip weft and one 3-clip weft, both of which were already curled from a previous project. Now, the edges of my hair all along my face are super frizzy, so before I even began to gather it into a ponytail, I used hairspray and a boar bristle brush to smooth them down. I also pulled out a few strands just at the ears. And after that, it's just your average pony. I think you can see that I've brought it closer to my nape, and because of the extra hair, I put in 2 elastics for security. The sides of the actress's head were pretty smooth, so I made sure to keep it as tight as was comfortable too. I'm also putting in 2 1-clip wefts in the top panel. Again, not necessary, but I thought it might be fun to add a little extra oomph here. I took a sec to curl them as well, just to keep in theme with the rest of the overall aesthetic. Once installed, I hairsprayed my edges here too and began with my French braid. To save time, I'm fast forwarding, especially since I assume most of you are familiar with this stitch. But for those of you who need some extra help, I'll have my Braidtionary linked in the underbar below. If I can give any advice though, this braid isn't really about volume like the Lagertha Viking braids. Rather, it's more about detailing in the sense that the sections should be thin and balanced. In fact, one of the things I noticed was how tight this braid was to the actress's head. I couldn't quite replicate it in the same way, but that's because I look terrible when I build my own braids that close to my scalp. As it is, I tried my best to pay attention to my lines. When it was done, I sealed it with an elastic, and since I noticed that the character has some sort of light-colored tie around her hair, I decided to utilize some thin white ribbon. It got wrapped around the elastic a few times, and then I knotted it. To make it easier on myself, I put in another elastic in the same ponytail, just further down on the length as a marker. I placed my finger between the 2 ties and brought the roll that it formed to the top of my French braid. A couple of pins later and I had my Valkyrie bun. Since I had some ribbon left over, I wrapped that around the second elastic and just cut off the excess. Now, I did go in and recurl some of the ends from this ponytail. I didn't mind the contrast of straight and wavy in the lower one, but I felt like it just didn't look as polished in this area until the adjustment. I also wanted the lower ponytail to look bigger than it already did, so I divided a bit from the top of it and pinned it right along the occipital bone. This immediately aided in the illusion of fuller hair. You guys know that I'm not really a makeup artist, but when it's something simple enough, I'll try it. I'm actually using a NYX eye primer, which just happens to be white and super pigmented. I'll put the reference picture I was working off of in the description too, that way you can see what I was looking at. But anyway, I've reached the end of my video today. Did you guys like it? Have you seen Ragnarok? I think it's one of my new favorite Marvel films, and I absolutely loved it. As usual, I'll put my links in the underbar, and I hope you guys enjoyed the DIY. Until next time, have fun and keep braiding. Bye!